Hello everyone, sorry for the lack of videos lately. I was very busy with school. School just ended, so I'm back to making more videos. In today's video, I'm going to be reviewing The Last House on the Left from 1972. The Last House on the Left was a 1970s exploitation low-budget horror movie shot for over $87,000. It was distributed by American International Pictures. The Last House on the Left was directed and written by Wes Craven, who also edited the film. This is his first feature full-length film he directed, and going on to direct good horror movies like The Hills Have Eyes, A Nightmare on Elm Street, The Serpent and the Rainbow, The People Under the Stairs, the Scream movies, and Red Eye. The movie was produced by Sean S. Cunningham, who directed the first Friday the 13th film. The movie stars Sandra Peabody, Lucy Grantham, David A. Hess, Fred Lincoln, Jeremy Rain, and Mark Scheffler. The film was released on August 30th, 1972. When the movie came out, it did not have a good reaction from audience at the time. Years later, it was rewatched on another viewing. It has since then become a cult classic. It was banned in other countries at the time of its release. The Last House on the Left is about two teenage girls, best friends, Mara and Phyllis, planning a city trip for a concert. They were looking for drugs, and instead they end up with a gang of escaped convicts who torture, rape, and force them to do things sexually that they don't want to do. The gang killed the teenage girls in the woods and did not realize they were close to the parents' house. My intro to this movie was watching James Rolfe, aka the Angry Video Game Nerd, on his Cinemassacre Monster Madness Marathon movie reviews in 2015. I don't give James Rolfe a lot of credit for introducing me and exposing me to other horror movies that I never knew existed. When this movie came out, it was very controversial for the time it came out. When the movie was marketed, it reminded the audiences to keep repeating themselves and in their head, it's only a movie, it's only a movie, it's only a movie. William Castle's movie Straight Jacket did the same thing, and other films have also used that gimmick too. Film critic Roger Ebert was one of the few film critics that liked this movie, giving it a thumbs up and defending the movie. This movie came out during the time when it was the post-old Hollywood school and the new wave of Hollywood. In the 1970s, people would go to the drive-in movie theaters or the movie theaters, and not only did they pay one movie ticket to see one movie, they would sometimes see one movie for the price of one. They were low-budget grindhouse movies that were grainy, lacked in story and character development, but some were decent quality grindhouse films. This movie was very disturbing, sick, brutal, gruesome, and torture, and the gang are very crazy and psychotic and are low-life piece of shits. You really feel for the teenage girls. The part when the gang forced the teenage girls to have sex with each other, that was very awkward and disturbing, and it was very hard to watch. Supposedly there was more footage of the rape and forced sex scene between the friends, where it was supposed to be more brutal and disturbing, but unfortunately those scenes are considered lost today. This is a horror movie that's not about a ghost, a supernatural, a monster, demons, satanic cults, or a witch. It's a real-life horror movie that could happen to anyone, wrong place at the wrong time. And you read about this stuff every day in the newspaper or watching the news on television about rape, murders, and people getting kidnapped for no reason. People say Saw was the beginning of the torture porn subgenre. You could argue this being one of the early ones before it was established as a subgenre this time. It's interesting how to see how this was Wes Craven's first horror movie before he became a very well-known horror film director at the time. Actually, before he was a film director, he was an English college professor before he became a filmmaker. And Sean is coming and both of them made two iconic horror characters, Freddy Krueger and Jason Voorhees. Prior to this, both of them actually made a porn movie called Together. Actually, Wes Craven was a porn director under a fake name before becoming an established Hollywood filmmaker. Wes Craven has said the Swedish movie The Virgin Spring, directed by Ingmar Bergman, was an inspiration for this movie. The movie has some similarities to the movie I Spit in Your Grave from 1978 with themes on rape and revenge. Martin Cove, who you're all familiar with, who plays John Krace in the Karate Kid movies and the Cobra Kai TV series. This is one of his first early movies, No Mercy. He plays a cop trying to track down the killers and the missing teenage girls. Back in 2013, I met Martin Cove at Monster Mania. And this is before the Cobra Kai TV series at the time. Back then, if I had seen this movie, I would have asked him what working with Wes Craven on this movie was like. It's weird, despite this being a horror movie, it has an odd soundtrack choice for an exploitation horror movie, and some weird dark humor slapstick comedy moments, which was not really necessary. It's like they were trying to tone it down a little bit after the rape murder scenes, maybe because they thought the audiences were too disturbed that Craven needed to add a little humor to lighten the mood up a little bit. It's interesting how, like, when the crazy gang meet one of the girl's parents, and the parents do not suspect anything yet. When they sleep in the room with the girl who they killed and raped, it's like the guilt is catching up to them for the sins of the crimes they committed. The teenage girls are nothing special, they're just like your average everyday teenage girls that are hip and free-spirited. What was supposed to be a fun night in the town turned out to be hell for them, wrong place at the wrong time. The character Junior is the only character who feels like an outsider in the group. Krug treats him like shit and does not respect him. Krug also treats Junior like an abusive father to him. You think he was going to redeem himself after kidnapping the girls, but that's not the case here. Junior may have been the only one showing remorse, knowing it was wrong that they were doing to the teenage girls, but he was not bright enough to think of a plan to get them out of that situation. Junior is also the only one who feels guilty for the crime. He does a good frog voice. Ribbit, 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 ribbit. The character Sadie was a sadistic and piece of shit garbage and a real bitch. Also, what's crazy, this actor was married to actor Richard Dreyfuss from Jaws. I can't imagine how that first date went for those two when they first met and started dating to get to know each other. David Hess as Krug, really sick, crazy, sick, horrifying, another piece of shit. I don't know why, he looks like Chris Sarandon from The Princess Bride. When Mari is raped by Krug, after losing her virginity, she walks into the river and is accepting her fate knowing that this is going to be the moment that she's going to die. The ending is a great revenge plot and they get what they deserve. Some people have argued and pointed out not being satisfied because of the budget at the time. I could see that. For me, I took it with a grain of salt and accept it for what it is and how they did the revenge plot. It's what happens when you don't have a big Hollywood budget and you use what you have and not what you don't have. For me, this movie is good and okay. Not saying this is a masterpiece or a great movie. I'll admit, I'm not the biggest fan of the torture porn subgenre. I was glad to still have checked it out for curiosity and seeing where Wes Craven started his career before he was a big shot. If you're someone who is sensitive and does not like murder, rape, torture, porn, subgenre, and horror, then skip this movie. If you're someone who is not sensitive to this subject, go ahead and check it out. Also, I'm not gonna lie, it's a really heavy film and a heavy subject for that matter. In 2009, there was a remake to this movie, but I never saw it. Honestly, I'm not sure I'm interested or desperate to see it. So that was my review of The Last House on the Left. Like the video, subscribe, hit the notification bell, get the latest updates on my YouTube channel, and I will see you next time.